Good evening, everyone, from the League of Women Voters Pasadena area. The city of Monterey Park is in our service area. My name is Martha Zavala, and I welcome you to the Candidate Forum for Monterey Park City Council. The Candidate Forum will start shortly, as soon as I'm done. There will be no intermission. Just for logistical purposes, the restrooms are immediately outside the foyer onto your right. Please take a note of all the exits in case of an emergency. And now silence all your electronic devices, please. This event is being recorded, so you'll get more instructions from our moderator when the time comes. Now, if you will please all stand, and we will pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Morgan Zadowitz, who will be our moderator for the evening.
Thank you, Martha. Good evening, and welcome to the Monterey Park City Council Candidate Forum. First, I would like to apologize to everyone here for my terrible cold. I will try to keep the coughing and the contagion to a minimum. My name is Morgan Zadowitz. I live in Altadena, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, Pasadena area, which includes Monterey Park as one of the 13 San Gabriel Valley communities that we serve. The League's mission is to promote informed and involved participation in government through education and advocacy. We study and act on public policy issues, but never endorse or support candidates or parties. We assist in forums such as this as part of our voter service program, and we thank the Monterey Park City Council, the candidates, and you for your participation. In the March 3rd, 2020 Monterey Park City Council election, there are 8 candidates competing for 3 seats on the Monterey Park City Council. 4 candidates from District 2, 2 candidates from District 3, and 2 from District 4. This is a term of 4 years. All candidates running for these 3 positions have agreed to participate in this candidate forum. The candidates from each district are seated together, beginning at the far left for District 2. Yes, that's right. Followed by those for District 3 and those for District 4. Before we begin, I would like to introduce the rest of the League team. In addition to me, the moderator, we have Thad Zadowitz, who will be serving as the timekeeper. Thad, could you hold up your paddles, please? Okay. So everybody knows that when you see stop, that means stop. We also have Denise Pummer and Valerie Jones serving as question sorters. I will now explain the rules for the forum, which have been agreed to by all the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement about his or herself and his or her candidacy. The candidates will be speaking in order based on numbers drawn randomly prior to the forum. The timekeeper will keep the candidates informed of the time remaining and will raise a red paddle when his or her time has elapsed. Once a candidate's time is up, he or she should conclude his or her statement as quickly as possible. The audience is invited to write questions to be answered by the candidates. Look for the runners who are circulating throughout the room with index cards and pencils and delivering your questions to the sorters. The following rules apply to all the questions. Only written questions will be accepted, and they must be in the form of a question and not a statement. Questions will be directed to all candidates. There will be no rebuttals. If there are several questions on a similar issue, they will be likely grouped together to save time. Questions must deal with the issues of this election. No personal references or attacks are allowed. All written questions, asked or not, remain the property of the League of Women Voters Pasadena area. They are never distributed to the press or to third parties. They will be destroyed. Please note that the questions are sorted to combine duplicates and eliminate any that are an attack on a candidate or may be edited for clarification. If you feel that your question has been misinterpreted, please submit another. Due to time limitations, not every question may be asked. Please feel free to discuss issues with the candidates following the conclusion of the forum. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer audience questions, and responses will be tracked by the timekeeper. Again, there are no rebuttals. Candidates are also reminded that this forum is being live streamed on the City of Monterey Park website. And very importantly, in the interest of time, please hold any applause until the conclusion of the candidate forum. At approximately 8 p.m., the question period will end and closing statements will begin. Each candidate will have 1 minute for his or her closing statement. Statements will be given in reverse order from the opening statements. Remarks will conclude at that time, and again, there will be no rebuttals. Lastly, league policies specify that no campaign activity, including distribution of flyers or display on clothing, posters, or buttons, is allowed within this room. A table is provided for candidate literature outside. Also, we request that everyone turn off his or her cell phones or put them on vibrate out of respect for the candidates and other audience members. Are there any questions about the format of this forum? Hearing none, we will begin with the opening statements. The first candidate to give an opening statement will be Leilani Morales. You're on.
Good evening. As a longtime resident of Monterey Park, I am invested and passionate about the growth of our community. I would like to represent the voice of our residents. With over 20 years of experience in education, I plan to use the skills I have acquired as a teacher, counselor, administrator of the nation's second largest school district. I have experience with budgets, oversights, along with years of advocacy for communities impacted by severe poverty. My family moved to Monterey Park in the late 90s. I live here with my husband and children now. My mom lives within walking distance along with my sisters. My children attend local schools. I believe in integrity, dedication, common sense. In my profession, I oversee staffing budgets for staff co-located at 77 schools and the adherence to goals and policies of our district. I have dedicated my life to motivating youth to become productive and responsible contributing citizens. As a professional educator, mother, wife, commissioner, and active community member, I will apply my knowledge and experience to lead the City Council and improve the quality of life in Monterey Park.
Thank you. The next opening statement will be delivered by Lorraine Martinez.
During my professional career, I worked for the Southern California Association of Governments, a metropolitan organization that projects population growth and its impact on housing needs and transportation issues in the 6-county Southern California region. I understand the intricate elements that play into addressing Southern California's growth challenges. I worked under the direct supervision of County Supervisor John Michaels, San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors. I understand the operation of municipal governance and served the constituents when in need and found resolve to their concerns. I worked in the construction management industry and was on the project management team that oversaw the construction of the Metro Green Line light rail project. I served as contracts administrator on the contracts management team that administered the bid process for the Long Beach Community College District construction projects. I value the importance of having the best of the best on the construction management team in order to build praiseworthy projects on schedule and on budget. I promise to serve the City Council seat ethically and with integrity, as that is the way I choose to lead our city. I have the city's best interest at heart, and I have the passion, wherewithal to accomplish what we as a community envision for our city. I will listen to your ideas, your concerns, and preferences, and work with the city manager with resolve, commitment, and dedication to accomplish great things for our city. My diverse career experiences will be an asset to serving as your city council member for District 2 and on citywide issues for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you. The next opening statement will be from Alan Shatkin.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Alan Shatkin, and I'm asking the residents of District 3 to allow me to represent them on the Monterey Park City Council. Public service for me is a humbling experience because it's close to my heart. I was raised to believe that it is our responsibility to leave the world a better place than we found it. And that work begins right here in our communities and in our neighborhoods. And that's why more than 12 years ago, when my wife and I moved to Monterey Park, I volunteered to serve on the city's Community Participation Commission. I later got training from our fire department and became a Community Emergency Response Team member, a CERT member. With this training, should we experience an earthquake or some other cataclysmic event, I will be prepared to protect my neighbors and save lives. I now serve on the Traffic Commission, and I'm very familiar with our traffic and road repair problems and how to solve them. For the past 2.5 years, I've also been working closely with the Monterey Park Police Officers Association. After I'm sworn in, I will fight to implement my plan to make our city and our schools safer. For the last 2 years, I have an important thing to remind you about, and that is I know how to make government work for people. I have a wealth of experience in overseeing multi-million-dollar projects, and I have the determination, the commitment, and the passion to get for District 3 the city services that we have long needed but have not received. And I'll do this while treating every resident in District 3 with sincere respect. With your vote for Alan Shatkin, we will preserve what is best about Monterey Park while we bring positive changes to District 3 and our city. I ask you to trust me with your vote, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. The next opening statement will be from Robert Bob Ginn.
First, I'd like to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this candidate forum. Now, I've been a resident of Monterey Park for over 60 years. I grew up and attended Brightwood School and Alhambra High School and received my business degree at Cal State LA. I've been married to my wife for 45 years and raised my 4 daughters here in Monterey Park, and they attended the Brightwood School. 2 attended Alhambra, and 2 of my youngest attended Marquevo High School. I was involved with PTAs at both schools, and currently I serve on the Board of Education for the Alhambra Unified School District for the last 18 years, advocating for our students and building a great school district. I'm proud to have passed major bonds to modernize all of our schools, even build new buildings for Marquevo, a new gym, and really provide a wonderful environment for learning environment for our kids. I also work with a budget of over $230 million for the school district, so I know what it takes to be fiscally responsible. I can bring that experience of collaboration and my public governance experience for the last 18 years to the City Council. I look to ensure the safety of our neighborhoods, provide transparency and accountability, to be fiscally responsible, and to be be cost effective and be efficient in the way we run our city, and to really listen to what our citizens have to say about how our city is run and looking at the developments. So I look forward to working on the City Council with the rest of the City Council and the City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. The next opening statement will be from Henry Lowe.
I am Henry Lowe, and I am running for City Council. I am the son of working-class, blue-collar immigrants. My mother was a seamstress. My father initially worked at a restaurant while attending trade school at night to earn a certificate to be a machinist. They worked nearly 7 days a week, and often I would let myself into the house while they worked. When we as a family did have time to go out, we visited Monterey Park. It was not just a place for them to shop or visit friends. To my parents, it represented that American dream. My parents worked very hard so that I could become the first to attend college. I was inspired by their work ethic, and after college, I wanted to devote myself to helping people like my parents. It was then that I became an aide to Assemblymember Gloria Romero, and for the next 20 years became a legislative aide and advocate for our communities like in Monterey Park. In fact, when I was hired by Assemblymember Gloria Romero, our district office was in Monterey Park. Because of the value my family placed in education, when I had the opportunity to further serve our family, I decided to run for the Garvey Elementary School District Board of Education. As a board member, I pushed to transform our underutilized community schools to be centers of academic achievement. Many of the students at the Garvey School District are the first in their family to attend college, as I was, and I am proud what we've achieved for our students. 10 years ago, I became a homeowner in Monterey Park after saving enough money and helped to fulfill my parents and their American dream. It is for people like my parents and the families who live in Monterey Park that I am running for City Council to ensure our neighbors have a stronger voice at City Hall, preserve the integrity and safety of our neighborhoods, improve our infrastructure and enhance our business corridors, invest in job programs that put residents on career paths to the middle class. My name is Henry Lowe. Thank you.
Thank you. The next opening statement will be from Fred Sornoso.
Hi, good evening. Thank you to everyone that planned this event and to those of you who are attending. I am Fred Cirno, and I'm running for City Council in District 3. I am a longtime resident with deep roots. I am not a politician. I have a grassroots campaign organized and led by me with the help of residents like you. You will not receive fancy flyers with endorsements by elected officials because I do not take money from special interests or unions. I represent you, and I place your interests before any other. I believe in integrity and doing the work. I walk the walk and not just talk the talk. I will roll up my sleeves and get to work. Safe neighborhoods are important. I host neighborhood watch meetings regularly and have invited all of you to attend through nextdoor.com. I am also a CERT member ready to assist public safety in an emergency. I believe in transparency. Open government is a must. The Brown Act must be followed and agendas posted correctly so residents understand what the council will be discussing. I am the only certified public accountant on this panel. I understand budgets. We must continue to reduce the city's unfunded liabilities in order to provide a good quality of life. San Bernardino ignored their unfunded liabilities and were forced to file bankruptcy. I believe in smart planning and for our neighborhoods, which includes proper zoning, traffic amenities, and aesthetics, which are keys to neighborhood preservation. And that means no marijuana in our city. If you want it, it's available in other cities, or you can order it for delivery to your home. As a CPA, I understand operational efficiency, and therefore I believe our city departments are long overdue for audits. We must ensure that there is no mismanagement of city funds or city resources. Our city is a great melting pot of city council, and our city council must reflect this. Outreach to all town meetings with free admission to the public to engage the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next opening statement will be from Yvonne Yu.
Hello， 大家好，我叫饶颖凡。Hello， 大家好，我叫姚颖凡。Hi everyone, this is Yvonne Yu. I'm running for Monterey Park City Council District 2. I came from Hong Kong when I was 16. I managed to be top 2% in high school. I went straight to UCLA, finished in 3 years. I have MBA from Loyola Marymount and CRCP compliance professional from Wharton Business School UPenn, and with 10 different security licenses. I used to work for Merrill Lynch as a regional sales manager, managing 5 branches, 53 financial advisors, and 4 billion assets. 10 years ago, I started my own investment bank, specializing in private equity, and now I retired. I wanted to give back to the community on a full-time basis. I have 3 kids. I care the community like you do. 7 years ago, I moved to Monterey Park because my son got into Cal State LA at age 13. And now he already graduated and works in Maryland in cancer research. I actually have involving community. I'm a board of Boys and Girls Club, Chamber of Commerce, and also a commissioner of General Plan 2040. I have the 5-point plans, which I'm big in public safety, and also I care about the city revenue, hope to increase revenue, and also I'm an environmentalist, hopefully to increase green initiatives, and also I wanted to make city council transparent and hold them accountable. And lastly, I wanted to promote youth development and hopefully more jobs foster for the community. I'm against marijuana retail business. I think they're not good for the city, not good for kids, not good for public safety, not good for housing price, and continue to fight for noise pollution. I walk 3,000 houses. I want to show my commitment to commit to my job. And also, I'm #1 on the ballot. So March 3rd, 2020, you for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The last opening statement will be delivered by Jennifer Love Tang.
Good evening, Monterey Park. My name is Jennifer Love Tang. I am running for Monterey Park City Council District 2. I'm a public school teacher, I'm a community organizer, and I'm a proud daughter of Monterey Park. I'm also the daughter of war refugees, and for the first 10 years of my life, I grew up in a small apartment. And when my parents saved up enough money, they made the decision to move here to Monterey Park, where I got the opportunity to grow up on a quiet cul-de-sac, attend excellent schools, and get opportunities that I wouldn't have had in life elsewhere. I graduated from Mark Heppel High School and USC, and I've built a career as an educator and as a public servant. And to be completely honest with you, it wasn't in my plans to run for office in 2020. But as the year approached, I was faced with what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called the fierce urgency of now. And with 2020 coming, I started to think about all of these issues that face us. The division and stagnation rampant in both local and national politics. We're 15 years away from the point of no return regarding climate change. We are facing a regional housing crisis. We have widening economic gaps. In Monterey Park, there's increased crime and under-resourced agencies. And it's our responsibility to fix these issues for future generations. And that requires bold leadership and political will. Part of that requires ensuring that all Monterey Park residents are heard, particularly those who are working class, those who are middle class, those who are young, those who are old, those who don't speak English, and those of us who are working hard to pay our bills. I'm running to be Monterey Park's working and middle class champion. I'm running because our next generation can no longer wait. I ask for your vote so that together we can build a Monterey Park for the future, a Monterey Park that our children and our grandchildren deserve. Thank you.
Thank you to all the candidates for their opening statements. And now we will begin with the questions. The first question is, why are you running for city council? And we are going to begin with Loraine Martinez.
Good evening. I'm running for city council because I'm the only person that has worked for the Southern California Association of Governments, knows the governments of city government, county government, and I worked in the construction industry, and I know budgeting, scheduling, and all the intricate parts that play into building a good project. So I want to use this experience so I can work together with the community so that we together can build a Monterey Park that matches our vision for what Monterey Park can be. So I also want to bring ethics back into the city council. So we can do great things in Monterey Park, smart planning. We can do environmental planning, be innovative in our building plans.
Thank you. Alan Shatkin, would you answer the same question, please?
I'm running for city council because I love this city. I moved here from somewhere else because I discovered Monterey Park. And I so much enjoy living here, but I'm really worried about the city. I see problems coming down the road that people are not even talking about. Let me give you an example. We are losing police officers faster than we can replace them. And right now, there is no plan on the table to do anything about it. This disturbs me. And that's why I've been working with the Police Officers Association to put together a plan so that when I'm in office, we can beef up our police department. Right now, we have very few black and whites driving around. We have actually only 5. And yet, if one of them is writing a report, we have 4. If one of them is having lunch, we have 3. I want you to think about this. We're 60,000 people, and sometimes we have nobody protecting us. I'm also concerned about the development of, in our community, and that it reflects the needs of the residents. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate to answer this same question will be Robert Bob Chin.
I'm running because I care about our city. I've been a resident for so many years, and I see our developments falling behind. Why does it take 20 years for these development and where we can't have a good tax base and to increase our general funds? We need that funding to support our police department and fire department. We needed to look at it from a perspective of ensuring that our community and our residents are provided the service that they need here in the city, you know. And you know, I want to build consensus. I'm always bringing people together, and I feel that I could bring our community together and to work together, and not have all the rhetoric that goes on in the city council race. Thank you.
Okay, the next person to answer this question is Henry Lowe.
I'm running because I believe our city. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Thank you. I'm running because I believe our city is at a crossroads. We need to have leaders who are willing and able to build bridges and overcome what divides us and find what unites us. As a candidate canvassing throughout District 4, you know, I've heard many concerns from public safety to congestion to condition of our roads. And we need to, as a community, come together and find solutions to address quality of life issues, because it is at local government that is the most intimate level of democracy, and we need to work together as a community. And that's the philosophy of how I govern. It's the philosophy of how I govern as a school board member, in which I work with all stakeholders for our community, and that's how I wish to govern if elected to the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to answer this question is Fred Cirno.
Thank you. The reason I'm running for city council is for a number of reasons. Number one is I'm a CPA, so I understand numbers. I understand how this budget works, and I want to make sure that our city is running according to budget and not running out of money. Another thing is I'm currently really involved with my neighborhood, the street that I live on. I look for ways to serve my neighbors on a day-to-day basis. I'm always walking up and down, making sure everything's in good repair, and making sure this streets or the city, in the neighborhood is safe and clean. I enjoy serving my neighbors, and I want to serve my district. I'm involved with Neighborhood Watch. I've been doing Neighborhood Watch for a number of years. I also, in 2017, was nominated for the Neighborhood Nextdoor.com All-Star, in which I finished second. And I'm also known as the persimmon guy on Nextdoor.com, where I've offered persimmons to my neighbors for a way to help them get together. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to answer this question is Yvonne Yu.
A lot of people ask me, why am I running for office? You have 3 kids. Do you have time? I told them, this is the best investment of my time, because I wanted to have a better city, not just for us, but for our next generation. I want to utilize my 25 years finance and legal background to serve the community. Within my 10 security licenses, I have one called municipal principal license, which I understand how to underwrite city municipal bonds, and I know the regulations inside out. And so I hope to utilize my experience to serve the community, because I'm like you, like most of the women out there. We love our country, we love our city, and we love our families. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last person to answer this question is Jennifer Love Tang.
I mentioned earlier that I'm a community organizer, and what that means is that I spend a lot of time talking to people about things that they care about. If you've seen me at your doors, one of the questions I ask you is, what are the issues you care about? And over the last several years, having these conversations, I started to see a gap between what my neighbors, my friends, my family members were talking about and what was being talked about up here on the dais at City Council. So that's why I'm running. I think it's really important that in a city as diverse as ours, that voices are heard, that people are engaged, and that we do things the right way when we're making decisions that are crucial for the future of our city. I care deeply about the next generation. In fact, I am the next generation. My fiance and I were privileged enough to be able to become homeowners here in Monterey Park, and we're here for the long term. And what that means is that for our future children, for all of our future children, we need to build a city that will serve them. We need to integrate more technology, more innovation. Our city has been stagnant for a long time, and in order for us to move forward, we need fresh ideas and bold leadership. Thank you.
Okay, my mistake. The last person to answer this question is Leilani Morales.
So I get asked this question quite often, and one of the things that comes to mind immediately is I'm here to serve the citizens of Monterey Park. I became a homeowner here almost 20 years ago after moving here in the late 90s with my mother, and was happy to establish my own family here. I enjoy to see the growth that the city has to offer, and I want to continue that. I've enjoyed Snow Village, I've enjoyed the local parks. My kids grew up playing baseball, soccer, and learning, staying at the after-school summer program. So I am invested and committed in this city. I'm not planning to leave anytime soon. I hope to retire in this city. So I want to be the voice of the residents. I want to continue to lead with passion and heart. I am not supported by any big endorsements, corporations. I am running a grassroots campaign. So I am also visiting the residents, asking our neighbors, looking out for each other. What I can offer to you all is that I'm here to serve and offer my time for you all.
Thank you. The next question is, what would be the first thing that you would change in the city? And we will begin with Alan Shatkin.
I think our residents need greater input into the way our budget is put together. Right now, it's simply put together in-house, and there's really very little input from the various communities about what their needs are. So I would like to see more community input. I'd like to see more local meetings where people get to say what it is they want to happen in this city and how they want that budget to reflect their needs. So one of the first things I'd like to see happen is that we, on our district levels, because we now have districts, that we have district meetings, small meetings, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, so that people have direct democracy, have a direct opportunity to express what they want to see happening in the next budget, because that budget reflects their own needs.
Thank you. The next person to answer that question would be Robert Bob Jin.
I think the first thing I would look at is really the infrastructure of our city, because the biggest complaint that as I've been walking is our streets. And a lot of people doesn't understand why our streets aren't fixed, and too many potholes. But I also think that, we need to look at strategic planning in our cities a little bit more, especially within our department, and how we could service our community a little quicker, and see if we do need help in certain departments. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to answer this question, that is, what would you change in the city, is Henry Lowe.
I think one of the first things that I want to work on is to improve how the city communicates with its residents. As I canvass and walk throughout District 4, I often hear from people that they feel disconnected from City Hall, and that shouldn't be the case given how close everything is within proximity to our homes. And so one of the things that I would like to do is see how we can improve how the city communicates information about projects to residents. Like, for example, one person told me that they would like to see, when they leave the home or they're coming back, if the city is doing road work, that there is a warning or at least an alert so that residents know and can plan around it. Another way in which I'd like to see us increase and improve communication is the fact that, we have a diverse community, and how can we make sure that social media, information technologies are also respectful of diverse cultures and languages. And lastly, see how we can embrace and further encourage more participation. To that end, I'd love to see us reestablish our youth commission to get more young people involved in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Fred Cirno.
The first thing I would do of becoming city council member would be bringing our neighborhoods together. I see a lot of people who are apathetic, who are invisible neighbors, who don't come out of their homes only to go to work and to do the things they need to do, but don't interact with the neighbors on their street. So I think this is very important. I think this is something that will help to build unity in our district and in our city. It is a way for people to show being civil to each other and help each other out. To give you an example, about a year ago, I was approached by the code enforcement about a house that needed cleanup, and I asked, why aren't the neighbors helping this person to clean up the house? It was overgrown with weeds, and the code enforcement guy just shrugged his shoulders, and I said, I'll be happy to do it, but I think this is something that neighbors need to help other neighbors. So that would be the first thing I would do, would be to help neighbors to get along together.
Thank you. The next person is Yvonne Yu.
Yes, I totally agree that I wanted to do the connections between City Hall and the resident. Because when I walk 3,000 houses, I realized that there's a lot of disconnections between the city and resident. First of all, I think language is one of the issues because it seems like I'm the only candidate that can speak Chinese. But among our district, we have over 50% Chinese. So there's a lot of disconnections there. Hopefully, I would be the bridge to help the residents. And also, when I'm running for a campaign, I realize that a lot of people that they use different social media, and it's hard to reach out to all the people out there. So I wanted to suggest to the city government that we should try all the way possible that to get a resident connected and get the town hall meeting out there and get the news out there. So to educate our resident in different ways that to be able to cover all the residents' communications. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Jennifer Love Tang.
New York City has a participatory budgetary committee system. And what that means is that groups of residents get together to create proposals for how they want to spend parts of our city budget. I would want to institute something like that here in Monterey Park, and it would solve a lot of the issues that Mr. Shatkin and Mr. Lowe brought up about community voice and about participation in our budget proposals. I think a lot of committees, or if we can start this, what it'll end up being able to address are issues that I've heard at the doors, like airplane noise, starting a committee and devoting funds to fight the FAA with our low-flying planes, especially over the Brightwood Hill. Youth development, reinstating our youth commission, devoting funds for programs that will support our youth. I hear a lot from young parents that we have play structures in our parks that need updates. And so that's something that I want to implement here in order to engage more residents and give the power back to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Leilani Morales.
Okay, so what would I change? I would really like to impact the city in providing a beautiful facelift. Maybe just have some more family opportunity to engage in family nights out. We have a family farmers market, which other cities really harp on, and those are opportunities in which families and neighbors come together. They do shopping and eating and sharing experiences. So one of the things that I would like our city to do is welcome other residents, be that engaging community that is open and welcome to have those experiences so that our families can remain here and have more opportunity. Enhance our downtown area. It needs a lot of support. It needs some love and attention. We need to have a slow economic development, but growth needs to be pumped in. We need to recruit business owners that want to stay here and sustain and meet the needs of our community, and open businesses that address all aspects of our community, even those of us that I represent more of the minority here.
Thank you. And the next candidate is Lorraine Martinez.
In meeting with the residents, I have heard you loud and clear. Your voices are not being heard in the city council chambers. If your voices are not being heard, this is not your city. The plans that are being decided here on the dais are not your plans. What I would do as I sit here in the dais is I would listen to you. This would be our community. We would build it together. The plans for smart planning would be the residents' plans and our businesses' plans. We would be innovative, and those innovations will be ideas from our community, both businesses and residents. And I hear you loud and clear. You want to bring back ethics and integrity to our city council. And I would like to do that. I know I can do it, and I will do it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, what are your plans for limited growth regarding hotels? And we will begin with Robert Bob Jim.
We just got to make sure we don't overdo it, because we don't want a whole lot of hotels in the city. I think if they're placed strategically throughout in some areas of the city, it may be good to enhance the different areas of the city. I know that we want to see good developments, and the hotels that are going up are quite huge, and hopefully that we can mitigate some of the hotels that is not concentrated all in one part of the city.
Thank you. The next candidate to answer this question is Henry Lowe.
Well, although the city has already committed land and space to hotels, I think it's really important that, given we're a built-out urban area, that we prioritize how we develop into the future. Because for me, my concern is, how are we also providing housing for first-time home buyers, for young professionals? What are we doing to make sure that we are also devoting land to bring good jobs, to incubate innovation? And so certainly I would definitely be supportive of limiting hotel development, because we want to make sure that we have balanced development that fits the needs of the community, fits the needs of the community for the future, as well as what the residents need now, which is what I hear oftentimes, is that we have too much congestion. We need to have smart development that does not exacerbate the congestion that we already have in our city.
Thank you. The next candidate to answer this question is Fred Cirno.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. The question is, what are your plans for limited growth regarding hotels?
Well, we're very committed to the hotels that are being built on Atlantic Boulevard. I believe we need to step back now and make sure that those hotels are going to be fully utilized before we decide to build any more. I think we should be concentrating on other issues in the city besides adding more hotels. Down in the district that I live in, there's not a whole lot of room for that. What we need is more retail businesses there in the Atlantic Square and the South Atlantic area, and also in the South Garfield Village area. So I would shift my priorities to other issues and just stop with the hotels for the present time.
Thank you. The next candidate to answer this question is Yvonne Yu.
I believe all the city development has to be balanced. Not over-concentrate in one area, or not over-concentrate in one type of development. So we have to look into the traffic reports. We have to take a look into the economics reports to make sure that the development is well-balanced in the city and not affecting a certain area. So to me, hotel is actually quite a lot of hotel already approved on North Atlantic Boulevard, and then the traffic is getting quite congested there. So we don't want any more hotel, hopefully, to build in North Atlantic, but sometimes it be case-by-case basis in other area. So I would like to see if there's any plan come into place, and then we look into the traffic report and economics report and take everything into considerations and hopefully have a balanced city. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate to answer this question is Jennifer Love Tang.
We have enough hotels in Monterey Park. I understand that the ones that are in the pipeline that are almost open bring a 14% bed tax to the city, and that's really strong for our revenue, and we need that tax base. But that being said, we need more development that serves residents. We're not the ones that are going to be staying in those hotels. That's just the truth. We need more national name brand businesses, more retail, more housing, more affordable housing. We need buildings that will serve us and more services that will serve us. I agree with a lot of what the other candidates up here have said in regards to smart development. And what that means is using data, using artificial intelligence, using technology to ensure that we are building developments that are for the 21st century. It's 2020 now. And so as we think about what we're building, we need to ensure that not only are we thinking about using all these approaches to our traffic studies, our environmental studies, we also need to be leaders in environmentally progressive developments. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate to answer this question is Leilani Morales.
Okay. So for me, my response is thinking as a city council member and as a representative of District 4, I would want to hear what the residents' voices have to say. So for our development to look into a hotel expansion when we're dealing with a city that's 103 years old, infrastructure that is failing, I would have to remind the residents that we need to prioritize our interests and time. We need to continue to invest in the streets, invest in the community. Our piping is coming up all over the city, and so I would prioritize that and really gauge what the interests of the residents would be. At this point, I feel that the number of hotels we have in the city is sufficient enough. If the future would allow opportunity for us to engage and possibly bringing in some of that Olympic participants and people that will be engaging in our downtown LA Olympic Games coming to our city, and we could be a host city, it would be a wonderful opportunity to look into that and research if we could address that.
Thank you. The next candidate would be Lorraine Martinez.
Let's not be mistaken. Hotels bring in 14% sales tax to the city. That would increase our revenue. However, hotels need to be smartly planned, and they cannot just be placed in areas that are already traffic infested. They need to be planned in places that make sense. And hotels need to bring something to the community. I looked on the website with the recent Courtyard Marriott. I saw nothing for the community, no restaurant. So it doesn't give anything to us, it just gives something to the tourists. We have 4 humongous restaurants just in the surrounding areas. Monterey Park does not have the footprint for hotels. I would like to see that property used for international name brand stores and restaurants that will bring something to the residents and as well as increase our tax revenue.
Thank you. Alan Shatkin, would you answer this question, please?
Well, hotels mean more visitors and more revenue, but they also mean more traffic, more crime, and a change in the quality of life of the people who live in Monterey Park. And I can rest assured that in 3 or 4 years from now, that revenue is going to be meaningless to us, and we're going to be hearing a lot of complaints because of that impact of our quality of life. We have enough hotels right now in Monterey Park. I'm really concerned about the fact that when we get these hotels, they don't even address our needs. For example, when the library had to do its fundraiser, it had to go to Alhambra because we don't have a ballroom large enough to do a fundraiser here. I think it was a bad deal we got from Marriott Courtyard, because we should have demanded that they have a room that services our needs, the needs of the residents of this city. So hotels by themselves, very nice, but we have had enough of them. The revenue is going to be very nice, but it will soon be eaten up. I'm concerned about the impact on the quality of people's lives here.
Thank you very much. The next question is, As an elected official, how would you combat homelessness in Monterey Park? And we will begin with Henry Lowe.
You know, that is a great question, and I think homelessness is an issue that we should all care about. Earlier, actually last month, I participated in Monterey Park's homeless count, and it was very eye-opening because during our survey, we actually encountered a homeless person near a shopping center at Atlantic and Garvey, and I was shocked to hear that the result of last year's homeless count was that there were 80 homeless in this city, and so we have to do our part, and I think that we, as a regional issue, we need to work with the county, we need to work with our neighboring cities to provide wraparound social services, as well as deliver the support needed to these folks if they are trying to transition, to find housing, if they need job training, but certainly give them that social safety net as a community so that we can help them help themselves and transition out of homelessness.
Thank you. Fred Cirno.
The issue of homelessness is a sensitive issue. I am thinking, though, of the residents of our city, and especially those of us who are homeowners. The area where I live near the LDS Church, near Atlantic and Regan, and we have quite a few transients that come through the area. We do feel sorry for them. We know that they have issues and problems, but they also are detrimental to our neighborhoods. They leave trash and other things that they do. But we would like to still show compassion to them, try to get them to services that we don't have in our city. Whether we want to provide those in the future, I don't know. But I think we need to get them to facilities that will be able to help them. And I think that would be the best solution for the homeless situation.
Thank you. The next candidate is Yvonne Yu.
Recently, I had discussions with the LA Councilman, David Rue. He is very knowledgeable about homelessness issue. And then he mentioned about once a person becomes homeless, then it's hard to help them because they may not want your help. In that situation, it's hard to reduce or prevent this kind of situation. So we have to avoid it, hopefully, in the beginning. Our city has some kind of issue, but then it's not to a point where similar to LA downtown. And housing costs is actually one of the big issues that causing the homelessness issue. And so for Monterey Park, the state required us to have 5,200 additional housing units. And so we actually have to look into smaller units for younger families and senior so that hopefully we can prevent the situations getting more serious in our city. Thank you.
Jennifer Love Tang.
Monterey Park needs to do our part in solving the regional housing crisis. It's time for us to move past the tired old NIMBY arguments against affordable housing that are rooted in racism and classism. I will fight for affordable housing because affordable housing is an integral part of homelessness prevention. If we don't want homeless people, we need to make sure that there are houses for them. Now, I know that there is a lot of fear rooted in that, but I went on a tour, an affordable housing tour, an inclusionary housing tour in Pasadena, and we all know how beautiful the houses are in Pasadena and how wonderful their property values are. And their city has taken a really aggressive approach towards building affordable housing, wraparound housing, and working with the county and the state, as well as law enforcement to ensure that these developments are really well integrated into their society. 48% of Monterey Park residents are renters. 1 in 3 of those renters spend over half of their monthly income on rent. And so 1 in 3 renters in Monterey Park are 1 medical bill away from losing their homes. So we need to make sure we address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Leilani Morales.
So for me, homelessness is an epidemic issue. It's something that I face day to day in the position that I hold. I think the importance that a city like Monterey Park can be very proactive. It is not yet the issue that is being faced in our neighboring cities, such as Whittier, such as the Los Angeles area, but I do feel that it's important to provide these families and/or individuals with the important resources and linkages to mental health. healthcare and housing. If our city can accommodate, we will have to look at that at the time. But at this point, I am not seeing this as a huge issue, but I do believe that affordable housing, it is a non-negotiable moving forward. It is something that the state is facing as a crisis is to why we have this homeless problem as we're facing.
Thank you. Lorraine Martinez?
Homelessness is a national problem, and no one has the answer. However, they are diligently working towards finding a solution to homelessness. Bringing it closer to our own city, right now, we do not have a problem with homelessness. However, the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments is made up of 30 cities in our San Gabriel Valley, Monterey Park being one of them. In 2018, they adopted a program that gives guidelines to homelessness, building shelters, and affordable housing. They have acquired funding that will be distributed among the cities. So they are planning for homelessness should it occur, and our city is on the board with this COG to plan for homelessness should it be a problem in our city.
Thank you.
And we'll have the funding. Thank you.
The next candidate is Alan Shatkin, please.
We're about 20 years behind in the building of affordable housing, and we have so much catch-up to do. There's not going to be any affordable housing built in the next 2 or 3 years that's going to have an impact here in Monterey Park. But there are things Monterey Park can do in addition to cooperating with state and regional agencies. For example, I have proposed that we develop a site and service plan, someplace in Monterey Park where people who are living on the streets, people who are living in their cars, where they can go and be safe at night, where they can find running water, where there are toilets, where there are showers. This is something that can be established and built in a year or two. People are living on the streets, and they're hidden in their cars. We don't even see them, and they're difficult to count. And the problem is getting worse and worse. So Monterey Park cannot solve this problem by itself, but it should do what it can do. And what it can do is help the homeless to address their basic needs. We should also initiate a homeless initiative with our churches. They really need to come together on this.
Robert Bob Jin, would you address this question, please?
You know, I attend Shepherd of the Hills United Methodist Church, and we do have a homeless person who sleeps downstairs, but he cleans up and leaves in the morning, and it's a big issue. And we also see that families are homeless too, and we work with Family Promise to provide shelter for some of the families for about 2 weeks and provide meals and support for them. And as Henry alluded to, is that we need to work with our county supervisors and public health department and to work with these homeless people who are on the streets. You know, I know like Family Promises, they work with faith-based churches and to help them out for a couple of weeks and help families and provide services for them and help the parents look for, I'm sorry.
Thank you. The next question is, are you in favor of a marijuana dispensary in Monterey Park? Why or why not? And we will begin with Fred Sornoso.
I am not in favor of a marijuana dispensary in Monterey Park. My feeling is that Monterey Park wants to be family-oriented, and I believe exposure to marijuana in our city is bad for children. We don't want to give them any more temptations that they're already facing currently. I don't know what the revenue is from marijuana, and I don't want to know. I just don't want it in our city because I think it would give our city a black eye. And I just don't feel it's needed here.
Thank you. The next candidate to address this question is Yvonne Yu.
I'm totally against it. I just mentioned it at my opening that it is not good for kids, not good for housing price, not good for public safety. And to me, it is a net loss to our city. No matter how much money they bring into the city has to lose so much that we have to have many years to build up, like school ranking, like public safety, like housing price. So to me, it's a net loss to the city. Although marijuana is already legalized, but I don't think Monterey Park needs that income. And I did talk to Montebello, the city councilman, not just the social issue, but also environmental issue as well. The water got contaminated, the chemical actually lead to air pollution, and also people steal the waste of marijuana and the waste bin has to lock up. So there's a lot of public safety issue as well. So I'm totally against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Love Tang?
I'm completely against this, and if anybody has told you different, they are lying. The reason why I oppose this as a teacher is the access that young people have to marijuana when they're in proximity to dispensaries has gone up, and we've seen that in the studies that have happened. But beyond that, I'm concerned about our ability to regulate if we bring this here to Monterey Park. I talked to a small business owner who was trying to get a commercial lease in an unincorporated area of LA County, and he was telling me how hard it was to get a commercial lease when there are marijuana dispensaries coming in, paying a year's rent upfront in cash. And what that means is that it hurts our small businesses. And so we as a city do not have the capacity yet to adequately regulate marijuana dispensaries. And there's no reason for us to pursue this at this time. Thank you.
Leilani Morales?
That's a hard no for me as well. I am not in support of marijuana dispensaries. I, like the residents, have heard from many residents in the last few weeks that we want to maintain the safety of our community. We see what has happened in other cities. I see it on a daily basis as I drive in and out of schools, 141 schools in the inner cities that are just a stone's throw away from these dispensaries, which are very traumatic to our young youth. And that's, for me, I do not want that in our community, near our kids, near our families, and in our city.
Thank you. Lorraine Martinez?
I do not support marijuana dispensaries in our city. Statistics show that small crimes such as vandalism increases near the vicinity where marijuana businesses are established. That means that's putting our citizens, our family, our children in harm. I do not support any business that would jeopardize our family's safety, their property values, or their properties, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Shatkin?
I don't think you'll find anybody on the dais here who supports marijuana dispensaries. And so let me just add my voice to that I'm opposed to it, and it wouldn't happen on my watch.
Okay. Robert Bob Jim?
I don't support it at all. I had a business down in South Central and had kids who were smoking pot and people were smoking pot, and it didn't bring good people into the neighborhood. And you're fighting kids who smoked it so much that they didn't know where they were, and they become very irritated and arrogant. And we just don't need that type of dispensaries in our city. And being on the Board of Education, we have a zero tolerance for drugs. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry Lowe?
I would oppose any dispensary in the city. Why? Because as a school board member, as someone involved in education, one of our priorities is to make sure that the students understand health and wellness and their families as well. And I think one of the most heartbreaking things for me as a board member is when we have to preside over a student who has been caught and a suspension possibly because they were using marijuana, and unfortunately we see the devastating effects to the well-being of the student. Furthermore, as a matter of land use planning, we have limited space, and we have to ask ourselves, well, is a piece of property better used for a dispensary, or can it be used for something like a high-tech innovation location instead? And so, absolutely, for myriad reasons, I would oppose a dispensary in the city.
Thank you. The next question is, what, if anything, can be done about airplane noise, low-flying planes? There were several questions on this subject, and we will begin with Yvonne Yu.
In my opening, I already said that I will fight against noise pollutions, not just the noise, but then the dust, actually not good for health. And since Monterey Park are on a flight path, so that affect quite a lot of residents. And so I did talk to a few residents, and hopefully we can help to solve the issue by possibly legal actions between city and FAA. A lot of people said it's impossible to fight with FAA, but then FAA changed route for Lake Arrowhead resident a few weeks ago, and then they have a settlement with Newport Beach resident as well. So what we would like to actually is to see if there's a certain legal actions that we can help the Monterey Park resident to fight for some kind of settlement and solutions with FAA. Hopefully they can fly higher or change the route, or maybe move to a different route path or flight path. But then I know sometimes FAA is not easily making decisions without any proper legal action. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Love Tang?
We need to form a committee of residents and experts to fight the FAA. The airplane noise has been detrimental to many residents' quality of life. I was talking to a voter the other day who's a famous YouTuber, and he told me about how when the planes fly over, the sound affects the video that he's recording. And in addition to that, it just disrupts our quality of life here in Monterey Park. There have been several cities who have fought the FAA, and we can, even as a small city, ride that windfall. Airplanes above Monterey Park have gone up by 85% between 2012 and 2017, and that statistic alone should create the political will to fight this. And if elected, this is something that I will certainly spearhead. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have Leilani Morales.
I definitely think this is a priority issue as we are in the flight path. Any given night, any given morning, I can see the lineup of planes headed towards LAX. So I do believe this would probably have to be a joint effort with other cities to see how other smaller cities are addressing this. This will be taking on the FAA is no small task. It's something that we'll have to see the success of other cities and learn from how they've been able to accomplish this and be able to change the direction. As we saw not too far from here, the recent accident at one of our schools near in the Commerce City where the jet fuel did fall into a playground and impacted many of the people on the school campus. So I do think it is something that I would prioritize, and I would like to prioritize as a council member.
Thank you. Lorraine Martinez?
I've spoken to many residents, and yes, airplane noise is a nuisance, and it affects everybody's quality of life. It affects my quality of life. I've explained that we don't have air conditioning, so we watch TV with our sliding doors open. And I'm watching TV trying to relax, and at the most important time, they're going to solve the problem on the TV. There flies an airplane, and I can't hear who murdered who. So yes, it affects my life too. I know our city has met with, on the round table with FAA. It's a slow-moving process, but we need to be vigilant and keep working with the FAA. We should also be concerned as citizens is on low-flying planes, what negative effects it has on our health. I would like to see that addressed as well. Thank you.
Alan Shatkin?
Well, first, our council needs to speak with one voice on this, and I'm sure that we will, and I certainly would like to provide the leadership on that, because when I go out at night, there they are, lights one after another in the sky, just over the house. You can count them as they fly into LAX. I think that now that we are on a district basis, each person in their individual districts needs to take responsibility for marshaling that community in support of an action. And frankly, I'd really like to find some attorneys to provide us with some pro bono work. This is going to take years to solve because the FAA and the government does not act quickly, and it's going to be expensive. So we can work on 3 tracks then: our council, our communities, and legally. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Bob Jin?
Well, I live on the flight path. Sometimes I can look out my window, I can feel like I can touch the bottom of the belly of the plane. And it comes over quite often since I'm home and retired, and I see it quite a bit. And I think we need to work, continue to work diligently with our state legislators and our federal congresswomen, and to make sure that our voices are heard and loud and clear. And I think that FAA really needs to become a part, hear what this community has to say, because if there are so many flights coming over our city, more than any other city, there's an issue. We're, what, 600, 700 feet above sea level, and they're talking about a difference of 1,500 feet or what. It affects our quality of life quite a bit. I mean, it affects my TV, and I miss a lot of comedian jokes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Henry Lowe?
As a council member, I am committed to seeking all remedies and remediations to this issue. Every morning when I walk my dog Mia, I see a parade of 8 planes flying over, to the point where I can actually identify which airline and which model plane that flies over. And certainly I think it's a quality of life issue that transcends all districts. And I think what I like to do as a council member, is to have the city of Monterey Park, yes, work with its regional partners to bring FAA for a town hall meeting here in this community to discuss our concerns and to let them know that our issues, our concerns cannot be ignored.
Thank you. Fred Cirno?
I represent the citizens and residents of Monterey Park, and I've been reading on nextdoor.com how the noise from the airplanes are a disruption to them and just impacts their quality of life. So I've heard that we could possibly file a lawsuit against the FAA. Maybe with a lawsuit that would help them to change course and do something about the planes flying over. Also, the impact on health. Someone told me that they've noticed a thin layer of residue in their swimming pool, and they're just wondering if that's from the airplane. So we don't know that, and we want to stop it before something that affects our health gets even worse.
Thank you. The next question is, in many driveways, there are many inoperative vehicles. What can be done to remove this blight? And we're going to begin with Jennifer Love Tang.
Well, driveways are private property, and so it is challenging to address an issue like this, but they are an eyesore to our city. I think one thing that we need to do is improve the communication between our city and its residents, particularly with code enforcement. I've talked to several residents who have put forth code enforcement complaints and don't hear back. City staffers are people too, and so it's understandable that the ball gets dropped on requests when there are hundreds of them that come in. However, we can utilize technology to ensure that there's constant communication happening between residents and city staff to address issues like this. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate to address this is Leilani Morales.
So I also agree that is private property. I think one of the main issues that we would be concerned about is, as residents, we need to take pride in our properties, and we need to take pride in the home ownership or rent that is the position that you're in. So I think maybe I would like to address that issue as more from the homeowner pride beautification, enhance that so that the neighbors themselves or the owner themselves of that vehicle would be able to see how that is impacting the view of making our neighborhood look pleasant. And so that's how I would come at that.
Thank you. Lorraine Martinez?
Your driveway is your driveway. That is private property. I wouldn't want government to come in and tell you that you can't park so many cars in your driveway. However, as citizens, as residents, having pride in our community, We must look at the beautification and blight. Are we contributing to beautification or are we contributing to blight? We do have code enforcement that will enforce such nuisance, eyesore nuisance. But if we have to also realize that we have families that have multiple drivers in their home. How would we explain to them that they have too many cars in their driveway? Thank you.
Alan Shatkin?
Well, you know, one person's dilapidated car is another person's classic vehicle. And we really can't ask people to dispose of their private property. But it seems to me that we can reach out to people. So as community people, as neighbors, reach out to people. Maybe we need to give somebody a tarpaulin to cover that ugly thing that's in their driveway. So it doesn't cost them any money. They can cover it, especially if it's immobile, if it's not moving. Sometimes people keep old cars for spare parts and things like that. But I think rather than challenging them and putting and attacking them, bringing them into the community, bringing them into the neighborhood, making them feel like, well, you know, if we can get your cooperation, we can make the neighborhood that much better. So I think like a personal outreach on a community basis would probably have a better result than calling in somebody from the government, from the city government to slap a fine on someone or a summons on someone. Nobody appreciates that.
Thank you. Robert Bob Ginn?
You know, in my neighborhood, I know there's several homes that are like that, and but you know, it's like you said, it's their private property, and I think it just really just talking to them in a personal way, and having the city look at what the code enforcement and ordinance have to say about those issues, but I think personally reaching out to them and just talking to them about cleaning up their driveway and in their front yards.
Thank you. Henry Lowe?
Well, definitely I think I share the sentiment of everyone's panel that on one hand, it is someone's private property. However, you're not living onto an island to yourself, and we are part of a community, and we have to be respectful of the visual landscape and also how the neighborhood looks. Now, to that end, I do believe that we should, as a community, you know, reach out to our neighbor and perhaps find out that, you know, does this person even know that there may be programs to assist someone if they want to remove their car, or if they maybe make a donation. You know, I had a car over 12 years old that wasn't really running, but I made a donation to KPCC, which was a tax write-off for me, but also got rid of an unsightly Honda CR-V, which I owned since 2005. And so I think that there are ways which we can reach out and provide assistance, as well as not be punitive, but also demonstrate that, you know, we're your neighbors, and we care about the aesthetics of the community, and let's work together to maintain that aesthetics, or rather improve the aesthetics.
Thank you. Fred Cirno?
This actually happened on my street where one of our neighbors was upset with another neighbor who had a unused vehicle in their driveway, and the person that called code enforcement was just trying to get back at them for something that this other neighbor had called the police on them, so they were just trying to retaliate. What the code enforcement did was just told the fellow, why don't you just buy a cover and cover the car, and that's all you need to do. So my feeling is that neighbors should be helping neighbors. That's a big thing that I want to do, is serve the residents in my district, in my neighborhood, to get along with each other and just help each other out. That's really a minor issue, but if we could just be more friendly towards each other, more civil, and just hopefully people will realize that that's something that might need to be covered up. Maybe that would be helpful. Maybe we could just, that's it, thanks.
Thank you. Yvonne, you?
I agree that your driveway is your own property. But then we also have to be considerate as a neighbor, and also have the public responsibilities. If it's bother your neighbor, bother the people around it, I hope you can have communications with your neighbor, and also talk about it, And if the neighbor, they are not comfortable with it, I would suggest that not just for this case, but then for other situations, that you should document it and make evidence to see what makes you uncomfortable, and maybe someone hiding in a car that scare you, or maybe someone actually have some kind of situations that you should document it. And once you get enough evidence and documentations, you should contact police, and they will actually do to see whatever fits the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. As long as we're on the subject of vehicles, perhaps you would address for us your thoughts about traffic congestion and also explain your understanding of complete street. And we will begin with Leilani Morales.
So traffic congestion, that is in my route back into the city, back into our city from downtown LA. I do think that as a council member, I would try to do my best to see what we could do to align traffic lights, signals. Other cities have addressed these issues. This is not anything new facing cities that are routes to and from the east side of our neighboring communities. So it would be very important for us to have a sit-down conversation with transportation and city lighting to see what we can do to streamline that. The second part of the question was?
Is about the definition of, or your understanding of complete street.
Complete street would be pretty much, my understanding would be to be able to get through any sort of pathway to the next location. So just ensuring that we have options for our residents to be able to have various commute routes to and from their homes to access. That would be.
Okay. The next candidate is Loraine Martinez.
Transportation congestion is a problem everywhere. And in our own city, I see even the traffic changing, especially with the waves. People from downtown LA are using our city streets to bypass the freeways. So that's adding to congestions in our quiet streets. However, the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, they have a committee that are addressing the issues on transportation in our San Gabriel Valley, Monterey Park being one of them. So they are addressing the problems and implementation for moving goods and also for transportation along our streets. And there's this innovation that's just coming out. It's a mass transit, and between mass transit and Uber. And it's a new pilot program that will aid in traffic congestion and people moving out of their cars. Thank you.
Alan Shatkin.
Yeah. Some of our traffic problems are, we've created them. For example, down on Markland and Wilcox over there, as people come into the marketplace, it's a horror story now, and I feel for the people that live there. And the city doesn't have a plan to deal with that for a couple of years, actually. And I know that for a fact because I serve on the Traffic Commission. But there are certain things that we can do. For example, the timing of some of our traffic signals needs to be revised. Some of our streets need to be reconsidered. We have some streets that are two-way streets which were fine 10 years ago. But now maybe we need to make one-way streets out of them, and we need to change the routing. So we need to kind of take a look at what's going on in our city to try to relieve some of this traffic congestion. Take a fresh look. What existed 5, 10 years ago may not be serving us well today. So I'd like to see us bring some creativity to addressing the traffic problems.
Robert Bob Ginn.
You know, I see traffic down Monterey Pass Road quite a bit now. In fact, if you go from the Minnick to, from Floral to all the way down to Fremont, you see a lot of cars getting off the freeway, out to 710, traveling up the Monterey Pass Road, or making right turns on Brightwood Street, and then you have a lot of traffic going through your residential. And, you know, it's really, the congestion, we really need to work with our neighboring cities on their streetlights as well as ours. Because I know if you're going from 1 or 2 lanes to 1 lane, and then underneath the freeway for 2 lanes and to another area, it makes it the traffic unbearable. You know, going down Brightwood, from Monterey Pass to Atlantic is congested too.
Thank you. Henry Lowe?
Yes, definitely congestion is an issue in our city. And it's not just limited to Monterey Park, but it's a regional issue. And I think that it requires regional solutions. Now, luckily, Monterey Park has been able to obtain funding, I believe about $9 million, to facilitate synchronization of our major boulevards like Atlantic, Garfield, and Garvey. And that money is because, unfortunately, we were not able to successfully advocate for the 710 tunnel. As a school board member, I was part of that coalition, and it really is a shame that we were not able to get that tunnel completed. But nonetheless, you know, this is an opportunity for us to work with the county, with the state, to find these solutions to get traffic flowing. And I know as a staffer, you know, over the years, I've written letters of support for our cities to get state, county funding, and as for the idea of complete streets, I support the concept of complete streets because complete streets mean that we are not just wedded to one mode of transportation, but regardless of your ability or mode of transportation, we accommodate all types. And definitely in C4, it's an issue because when I'm canvassing in like north of Garvey, I see all the congestion, especially with cars parked on streets.
Fred Cirno?
Hi, we have a traffic problem in District 3 as well as everybody else in the city. One example of a traffic problem that we have is at the intersection of Garfield and Pomona, which is where the signals are controlled by Caltrans. Semis that exit the 60 freeway on Pomona and turn northbound on Garfield cannot clear the turn in one signal cycle. That tends to back up traffic in all directions, and you're stuck there for at least 2 signal cycles. City staff has been trying to meet with Caltrans, but Caltrans cancels the appointments that are set. So I will get involved and make sure we meet with Caltrans and have signals synchronized to match the flow of traffic. Also speeding, I live on Gleason Street and people use that as a bypass to avoid the intersection of Regan and Gerhardt. So we need some way to try to get people to slow down. I mean, unfortunately, someone was killed yesterday by East LA College and that was a result of speeding, so we need to work on that.
Thank you. Yvonne, you?
LA is well known with traffic problems. So for the situations in Monterey Park, I do see that North Atlantic has a quite serious problem. And we wanted to work with Caltrans and LA County to make sure that the traffic lights actually did measure it correctly and hopefully provide an easy flow for traffic. And at the same time, I think we also wanted to work with the traffic commissioner because they are the one that approve new developments, especially with the traffic reports study. So I would like to also work with different departments if I get elected to hopefully solve the traffic in different aspects. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Love Tang?
There are 2 solutions to solving our traffic issue here in Monterey Park. Number 1 is using data and math. With all of us using Google Maps now, with so many drivers using technology, we have so many data points. And I recently read an article developed by city planners and developers that said that because of all the data points that we have, there's no reason for us to have traffic any longer. We just need to utilize that data for good. The other solution is providing alternatives to driving. For the last 60 years, we've focused on cars. We've been very car-centric, but complete streets means streets that not only serve those of us who drive private cars, but those of us who walk, those of us who take public transportation, those of us who bike. And Monterey Park needs to do more in order to spearhead these complete streets. One of the ideas that I have, when I was young, took the Spirit bus often. And those routes haven't really changed much over the last several years. We have our new marketplace, but the bus doesn't go there. So we need to re-examine those routes so that we can increase ridership and lessen our dependence on private vehicles. Thank you.
Okay. The next question comes from a student at Brightwood Elementary, and it says, what will you do to help make the area around my school safe for kids like me. And we will begin with Lorraine Martinez. I'm sorry. Lorraine Martinez.
Thank you. Safety for our children should be our #1 priority. Children should be going to school to learn, to socialize, and learn new skills. Their safety should not be a worry of theirs, nor their parents. We have crossing guards that protect our children. We need to have police presence to make sure that undesirable adults are not threatening or harming our children. I hope that we can all, as a community, look into this issue and fight it and act quickly if we ever see our children threatened or their safety threatened as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Shatkin?
Yeah. I've proposed something similar to a neighborhood watch program, which I call a school watch program. I'd like to see us strengthen our safety in our schools, bring in our police department to do a thorough survey of the needs of each individual school. Because I know I walk into most schools, nobody stops me, nobody asks me any questions. Right now our schools are porous for all intents and purposes. And we don't live in the world that we lived in 10 years ago. Terrible things are happening in schools in small cities just like Monterey Park, and we think it can't happen here. And we're not prepared for it if, God forbid, it should happen. And that's why I want to bring the police in to do a complete survey. Some schools may need fencing. Some schools may need cameras and monitors and things like that. Some schools may actually need some construction done. But we can improve the safety on school sites if we want to do that. And that's why I'm proposing a school watch program, similar to Neighborhood Watch.
Robert Bob Ginn?
So school safety around on traffic, it has been an age-old problem at all of our schools. And those are things that we always deal with. We always try to talk to the police department. Of course, we don't have enough police officers on hand to cover all 4 of our elementary schools with the Allen Henry Unified School District. We do have crossing guards. But we need to educate our parents and tell them, don't double park. Every parent wants to drop their kids off as close to school as possible. So we see parents double parking, letting their kids off in the middle of the street, crossing streets by themselves, and that has been an issue no matter how many times we tell our parents that don't do this because kids can get hurt. When I was a parent at Brightwood, I saw kids that almost got hit by a car because they were running across the street and the parents weren't parking their car and crossing the crosswalks.
Thank you. Henry Lowe?
Sure. Absolutely. School site safety is a concern for me as a school board member, and I think that here in Monterey Park, this is where we do need to work and support our law enforcement, our police officers to make sure they have a presence. Well, no, I know they have a presence, but make sure that the community also feels supported as well. One of the things that we did at one of our school sites, actually not in this city, but in San Gabriel, was we at one of our school sites, Marshall Elementary in San Gabriel, we worked with the local PD and actually opened a substation which allowed that part of San Gabriel to feel that they have a more stronger police presence. And I think that those are partnerships we need to build, as well as making sure that we work with the schools as well, because perhaps they have needs to reconfigure the school site so that it can facilitate more safe and secure schools, because many schools were built 50 years ago, and unfortunately it is a changed world. And so how can we work together with our schools, with our cities, to collectively ensure safe schools and communities?
Thank you. Fred Cirno?
I actually talked to someone yesterday about this subject, and this person was telling me that some of the schools in the district where I live, that city government, city officials never visit the schools and ask them what they need. So I think it's very important that me as a council member go and talk to the administrators, the principal at Robert Hill Lane and Bella Vista Elementary School to find out what their weaknesses are, what their fears are, and have the city support these schools and just stand behind the schools, behind the principals, and give them the resources, the help that they need. First, I think we need to find out what the problems are, what they're facing, and then help them to solve it. Thanks.
Thank you. Yvonne, you?
Public safety is a top issue, especially for kids. I'm the board of director of Boys and Girls Club, and we have parents meeting periodically. And that comes up actually a few weeks ago from my parents that they're concerned about the child safety. And actually, I learned there's an app called Live 360 that you would be able to monitor where your kids go and also where their locations. So I think this is a very effective social media app that can help to monitor your kids' safety. Not sure if your kids will enjoy it, but then to the kids' safety, I would say, hope you allow your parents to monitor you and for your best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Love Tang?
I'm a public school teacher, and so I want to thank this student for this question because this issue is near and dear to my heart. I can't tell you how many times I've had a situation in my class where the lockdown bell rings and it's my job to protect my students in my class. I've had students ask me point blank if I would take a bullet for them. And so school safety is at the top of students' minds every day. In order to solve this issue and make Brightwood safer for our community, we need to work with the school district and local law enforcement to ensure that they have the resources that they need to keep our students safe. I think Mr. Shatkin's idea of a school watch is really, really great because when I was a student at Hillcrest Elementary, I had really great relationships with our local PD. We had a DARE program and an officer came into our class every week, and so I knew as a young student that I could go to our law enforcement. That's not necessarily the case anymore, and I want to ensure that our young students in Monterey Park know that they have people protecting them. Thank you.
Leilani Morales?
All right. I want to thank the young resident for the question because, yes, it is our priority. As a mom and an educator, first and foremost, student safety is our #1 priority in and around our community. I can tell you that my experience firsthand is that schools had valet pickup and drop-offs for families to make it easy to get your students in and out of their school quick enough and in a safe manner. Cities need to work with their local schools to ensure that there's a safety plan in the event of any tragic emergency. So to you, young man, you have my promise and my dedication that I will ensure that student safety is #1 in and around our schools in Monterey Park. And that's what I will continue to strive for. And it's been, again, my experience and my privilege to work with the neighboring stakeholders and administrators to ensure my children were safe as they were enrolled in local schools.
Thank you. Our last question for the evening is, how would you prevent corruption amongst city leaders? And a number of the questions have alluded to council members appointing family members and donors to commissions. We will begin this question with Alan Shatkin.
Okay. All I can do is speak for myself to begin with. I believe in complete transparency. I don't have any family members to appoint, I'm sorry. I really don't see a serious issue of corruption. Sometimes there are issues of conflicts of interest in which I would expect someone who had a conflict of interest to recuse themselves and to step aside if they did have one. But I think we have to trust each other on the council, because if we don't trust each other, we're not going to get anything done. Once I look at the dais here and the people who are running, I don't see any reason why the people of Monterey Park should not trust everybody who is on this council, who is on this dais right now. I think that they're all honest people, good people, people who have the best intentions, and I don't expect that whoever is elected from this dais is going to do anything but bring honesty and integrity to the city council.
The next candidate is Robert Bob Jin.
You know what, it is about transparency and accountability, and we need to be accountable to each other as if we're on the city council and to the residents. I think that's really very important that we see that. And then if need to do, let's do a background check. We do that at school sites before people walk into our schools. We say, give us your credit card, and we send it through the Rapture system. Not your credit card, but your driver's license, and we send it through the Rapture system to check if there is any felonies or they had committed some misdemeanor or crime.
Thank you. Henry Lowe?
Well, this is where I think that, as council members, we would rely on the community to keep us honest, quite frankly. And that means appointments as well as oversight programs. One of the things that we do at the school district is that for bond programs, we actually have a community oversight committee that watches over how we spend our money. It is spent wisely as well as responsibly. And also, I believe that, I think actually Monterey Park does a pretty good job of the clerk's office, posting people's records. But I do think that, we should make it easier, if we can, for people to be able to access these records. But first and foremost, I would challenge the community that, all of you who are here, you need to keep us honest. Because if you don't, then that is how complacency is what breeds corruption. And that's something that we cannot have, especially a local government.
Fred Cirno?
I believe serving on the city council is a privilege, not a right. I believe that trust is earned, and once that trust is breached, it's very hard to get that trust back. People on the city council who serve themselves rather than the residents of the city that's just shameful. To tell you the truth, we're servants of your folks. We're here to serve you. We're not here to serve ourselves or to serve people that are giving us favors or whatever might be happening. So corruption on the city council is just very bad for our city. Gives us a bad image in our community and in our valley, and we just don't need that.
Thank you. Yvonne, you?
I have zero tolerance in corruption. And it bothers me when people are not transparent. And I wanted to hold everyone accountable for whatever they said. So from my previous legal background, I do have, I was arbitrators in NASD, and also I do expert witness for hundreds of security court cases. And transparency, very important. You have to disclose everything so that you have conflict of interest with. So whenever I see city council, the current city council is very upset. People have their own interests. And the reason this is actually one of the reasons that I wanted to run is because I don't want to see that anymore. And I hope the city council will increase the transparency, and I will personally hold people accountable as well for whatever they said. Thank you.
Jennifer Love Tang?
Corruption is rooted in money, so we need to get money out of politics. That means a few different things. One, I don't have any business interests in Monterey Park, and neither does anybody in my family. And I think that's really, really important because the vast majority of residents in Monterey Park do not have business interests. I think that we can also take a cue from neighboring cities like Alhambra and Los Angeles and institute election finance reform. Here in Monterey Park, a candidate can give themselves or somebody can give them an unlimited amount of money to run for office. That's contrary to state assembly where there's a limit of $4,700. That's contrary to the presidential race, which has a limit of $2,000 something. Here, though, there's no limit, and that means that nefarious influencers can come in and buy our city council. I know that in November in Alhambra, there's a city ballot proposition that would limit contributions. And also in Los Angeles, there's rules that limit developers from contributing to political campaigns if they have a project in the mix. And so I would like to explore instituting that here in Monterey Park.
Thank you. Leilani Morales?
Okay, as for me, again, I see this position as a privilege and an honor to be respected and to lead with integrity and heart for the citizens of Monterey Park. I as well have no other special interests, backing, or support. This is my first adventure in politics, and I feel like I need to do something to serve my community in the District 4 area, to be a voice for our residents. And for me, it is something that I would do with honor and I would uphold truthfully to the best of my ability. And so that is what I would bring to the position, and to avoid any further corruption on this council that may exist.
Lorraine Martinez.
You cannot have corruption without unethical behavior and actions. It is the character of the person that will show you they will do honorable things on this council. So it is very important for you as residents not to hear what people say or the promises that they will make. Look at their character. That will determine what they will do for you on this dais. I don't know what comes first, the politician or the corruption. But we as residents have to hold our elected officials at the highest standards. It is our duty and our right to question them and to hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the question section of our candidate forum. But we will proceed with closing statements from each candidate. We'll remind each candidate that you're limited to 1 minute, and we're going to go in reverse order, and we're going to begin with Jennifer Love Tang.
To the residents of Monterey Park, I ask for your vote to be your representative in District 2. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a public school teacher and I've built my career as an educator. And I'd like to share a little bit about why I think teachers need to be elected to public office. Number one, teachers are really big nerds, and I love policy, and I love understanding all of the intricacies and the complexities of the proposals that are brought forth here. I look forward to diving into that. Number two, teachers are great listeners. My job as an educator is to ensure that the voices of my students are heard, and that is what I will do for you on the Monterey Park City Council. Thirdly, teachers have chosen to dedicate their life to public service. I started out my career as a volunteer teacher in Cambodia, and that experience taught me the importance of what it means to serve others, and that's my primary motivation for putting my name out here. I ask for your vote, and I encourage you to do your research. My website is jenniferlovetang.com, on Facebook at jenniferlovetang, on Instagram at jenniferlovetang. Please send me messages and ask me questions. Thank you.
Yvonne Yu.
Hi, this is Yvonne Yu. At the opening statement, and actually I already described what my background is, to me, City Council should have a balance of power, should have a diversity of professions. And I believe that finance and legal are two very important knowledge and experience. You cannot learn it in a day. But then for city issues, they are very complex issues. I don't want it to say they are easy. You are not just voting for whatever that you listen to other people. We have to be able to be independent and determine what's the best for the citizen. So I urge your vote for me as a public servant. I'm the number one on the ballot, and hopefully you're number one choice. So March 3rd, 2020, you for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Fred Cirno.
Hi, I'm a longtime resident of Monterey Park. I've been living in the city since 1964, so I've been living in the city for over 55 years. I attended local schools. I'm a graduate of Marquette High School, East LA College, and Cal State LA with a degree in accounting. I have a strong foundation in my community, and I'm already doing things in my community that are people that are talking about. I'm already doing them. I'm serving my neighbors. I do neighborhood watch programs. I'm working with the church down the street that's having transient problems. I'm working with the pop team from the Monterey Park to clear these folks out that would help to keep us strong neighborhoods. I do block parties every year to help neighbors to get together and to create cohesiveness. One of the things that I would like to do is continue doing that to build strong neighborhoods. Remember Fred Cirno, number 2 on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry, could we hold the applause, please, until we're finished? In the interest of time, Henry Lowe.
Thank you. Well, I just want to thank everyone who are here today because you obviously care about the quality of your communities. I began my statement earlier this evening by talking about how my parents inspired me. And I think really at the end of the day, what you do, what you decide to do, the public servant, you have to be able to look at yourself as well as your family members and say, you did the right thing. And it is for my parents and people like them that I have been a public servant for the past 20 years of my life. And as a school board member and community volunteer, I've learned that unless you build consensus and coalition, no matter how well-intentioned your ideas are, they cannot move forward with credibility. And I've heard loud and clear from residents that we have many quality of life issues and we need to work together. And that is a pledge I make if elected to the City Council. Henry Lowe, www.henry-lowe.com. Thank you very much. Vote March 3rd, 2020. And remember, tell your neighbors to vote as well.
Thank you. Robert Bob Ginn.
I have a proven leadership experience that I can bring to the city to move our city forward. As I have served on the Board of Education for the last 18 years, and it has not been about me, but about the children that we serve in our community and providing a quality education. I will bring that same attitude to the city, and it will be not about me, but about the city and our community. I think that's very important. I want to bring our city together in which we're working together as a community and meeting the needs of our residents. The only promise I'll ever make is that I will work hard for our city and for the needs of our city. And the city of Monterey Park has been my home for over 60 years. I care and I love living in the city. It is home to me and my family. And I will always listen to what residents have to say. So I hope that I ask for your vote on March 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Shatkin.
I want to say thank you to my Latino and Asian neighbors and friends who signed my nomination petition. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I must thank my wife, Wendy, who's sitting in the audience. She's been my strongest supporter and campaigning with me every day. My deep appreciation goes out to the unions that are supporting my election, the Monterey Park Police Officers Association, the Service Employees International Union, the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters, the Alhambra Teachers Association. These workers know where my heart is. And I must say thank you to the Los Angeles County Democratic Party, the Monterey Park Democratic Club, and the United Democrats of the San Gabriel Valley for endorsing my candidacy. I live my life by the words of President John F. Kennedy, who said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." And my country begins right here in Monterey Park. I promise the residents of District 3 that if you vote for Alan Shatkin, I will make you proud that you did. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Loraine Martinez.
I am loyal to the residents and to our city. I have no influential ties with developers, big business, or special interest groups. I will listen to your concerns, suggestions, and preferred choices and promote the vision of our residents. I have heard your concerns loud and clear, and I know your worry. I get it, because I too feel the worry, seeing the direction our city is headed, and that our voices are not being heard. But let's set aside that worry, because I believe together we can aspire to be a better Monterey Park. Let's welcome innovation, environmental-friendly elements in our planning, sensible planning, and national named restaurants and shops. Together we can improve our quality of life and preserve all that is good in Monterey Park. In this election, your vote is your voice, and it is your opportunity to change the status quo. Thank you. Vote you on your ballot. Thank you.
Leilani Morales.
Okay, good evening. I wanted to thank the residents that came out and took a moment out of their evening to spend an evening with us and hold us accountable to the issues that are important to you. Before I go on, I wanted to just close and thank you. I ask the residents to put your confidence in me. I lead with integrity and compassion. I welcome the opportunity to serve you, the community. I'm passionate about the city I call home. I look forward to supporting smart, strategic growth in our community. I work for the residents. I will answer to you and only you. I am not a lifelong politician. I bring perspective as a woman, educator, an administrator, and community activist in my position. I urge you to vote and make your voice heard. I am number 2, District 4, and I appreciate the opportunity to be up here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you very much for taking the time to be part of this forum. And as stated earlier, the League's voter service goal is to promote an informed and involved electorate. We hope that we have succeeded in helping you to become better informed about your choices in this election. But now we turn the choices over to you for the action part. Please participate in our democracy by casting your vote by mail or at a voter center, and urge your friends and family to do the same. Remember, the deadline for registering to vote is February 18th, 2020, and Election Day is March 3rd, 2020, with vote centers starting to open on February 22nd, 2020. Further information about all of this is available at lavote.net. You may access impartial candidate and ballot information at votersedge.org. And last but not least, please remember that the world is run by people who show up. Thank you again, and good night.